Welcome to New and In Between, hosted by me, Mia Quinn Maddox, where I'll be discussing the hows and whys to my journey towards my faith. I've learned through my highs and lows that this path is not mine to travel alone. Join me mid journey as I embrace my wins, losses, and everything in between. Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to New and In Between. I'm your host, Mia Quinn Maddox. And here we are, season 3, episode. I never know the episode 11 or 10 or one of them, but it's a lot of episodes. So who cares what the number is? It's another episode. So today I have the honor of having Darryl Parraway, who is someone that I met. And remember, I told you guys that I am in, I bowl, and there is a whole community of people who bowl. And this is someone that we bowl in a bowling league that we bowled against, but this is how we became acquainted. And just in small conversation, I learned that he was a therapist. And I'm a big advocate for therapy, so I asked him if he would like to do my show, and he agreed. So I'm very grateful. So, Darryl, thank you for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you. It was very, I was very, once you said that you were a therapist, I was like, ooh, I wonder if he'll do my show.
Hmm.
I was like, I wonder if that was my first thought, like, ooh, I wonder if he'll do my show. So
Okay.
thank you for being here. Let everyone know who you
I
are, what type of therapist you are, and what led you to want to become a therapist.
well, yeah. First, thank you for having me. Right. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm an attachment therapist. What that means is I believe that trauma can happen in utero. I work with the 0 to 5. That's more of my specialty. But
Now,
we,
one second, make sure you say what utero is because
oh,
a lot of people probably don't.
meaning trauma can happen, before a child is born.
Mhm.
Because we know that as a mother carrying a child, sometimes she may experience some external trauma, which can include some substance use or mental health fatigue, or it could be some domestic violence or anything, and that's transferred, through their system to their babies, possibly through cortisol, which is a whole nother conversation. But so that's where a lot of my focus is, and working with parents who are carrying. And when children come out, we begin the process even from as early as 2 years old, where they're able to understand, and we work up through adults. So in our organization, we focus from 0 to 5, and then from 6 to 21,
Okay,
and also with some adults and parenting.
okay, that's cool. So, what led you to want to become a therapist?
I fell into it, to be honest with you. I'm born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. Um, I come from a dysfunctional family. My mother was great, awesome,
Mm-hmm.
super awesome, but we I had a stepdad. He was very abusive, physically abusive, to the point where he beat me on a couple occasions with an extension cord. Now I don't know if you've ever been had a beating on any level. An extension cord is a whole different relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and he would wet the extension cord, and
Mm.
just make me stand up at attention in the middle of the night for 5 and 6 hours at night. And we're going back to the '60s, so there was no child protective services, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my mom wasn't a woman who was able to leave and do things. So as I got older, I carried a lot of that with me, and it wasn't brought to my attention until I was about 30 something years old. Had a lot of anger.
Mm-hmm.
I was self-centered, didn't care about other people, because I operated in survival as opposed to operating in thriving. And I just fell into social work because I wanted a job. I was bored at the Postal Service. I got a part-time job as a social worker with a welfare to work program. And I got passed up for a promotion because I didn't have a degree in social work. So I was like, I think I want to do this. And working with the welfare to work population, I saw a lot of parents, a lot of single mothers, just they were trying. And they were trying to raise their kids in a way that they could be successful. And my heart went out to them, and I was like, wow, man, what could I do? So I didn't know anything about a master's in social work until I enrolled in school. And then fast forward, I said, wow, man, you know what? I want to be a therapist because there are not a lot of Black, African American, Dominican male therapists out there. So I believe in the Black community, we need it. We need it in our brown community as well, all communities, but certainly me being who I am and where I'm from, I thought it would be important. And so I was fortunate to graduate, get my license, and here I am.
Oh, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, as you tell your story of your childhood, you're you are born in the decade of, I think, like my mom.
Okay.
No, my mom is actually a little, maybe a few, like a little bit older than you, but in those times, like my grandparents, you couldn't do anything if you weren't married as a woman. You had to be married. Like, to get credit, you had to be married.
Mhm.
To do certain things, you had to be married. So to have to be married, you kind of stayed with the person that you stayed with because you kind of had to. So you
Yes.
sacrificed your kids for your relationship so that you could live, because living by yourself is hard, because you watch your friends who are struggling, as a single mom. So it's, as I'm trying to learn my mom, like it's important for me to talk to people from her generation, because then it gives me more of an understanding for what my dad, what my mom, like what they grew up in, because of course we grew up in something different. Every generation is different, but it's helping me to understand the trauma that I suffered from what my mother lived through, because she doesn't think that it's trauma, but it was important for me to have you here, because sometimes we'll label things as something better than what it is,
Mm.
so that we don't have to deal with it.
Yep.
And this is why I'm such an advocate for therapy. And it was important for me to, like, I'm like, oh, if I'm always advocating therapy, 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 I'm like, I need to have someone here that could, just let the world know how important it is, especially for Black men.
Mm-hmm. I Okay. So a couple of things, right?
Yeah, talking to the mic.
So a couple of things. There's something known as adverse childhood experiences. It's called ACEs.
Hmm.
So if you were to Google that, ACEs, poverty, substance use, um, domestic violence, molestation, parental mental health, all of those experiences that a child could have, studies have shown that 80% of the population has had at least one of those experiences. Most of us, especially in the Black community, we've had at least four, especially in a community if you were born in poverty. So you had them, you had all that.
Hmm.
And it has a longitudinal effect, a long term effect on our health: diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure. So let's start with that part first. So I think that I think mental health awareness is now gaining momentum over these last, couple of years, couple of decades, especially post COVID.
Yeah.
A lot came out during COVID, man.
Listen, you had to
So
sit with you had to sit with yourself, or sit with your other, or sit with your kids.
there you go. And a
Yeah.
lot of kids remember. So COVID, the back end of COVID was 2020.
Mhm.
So think about those young kids, 2, 3, 4 years old. They didn't have any social emotional learning because they were home. Especially if it was only, say they were only child, or only two of them, or the other kid was a bit older. So you didn't have that social emotional learning that you would have gotten as a child going maybe to preschool. They didn't get that pre-K, that all that kind of stuff. So, and that showed up in the school systems now, which is why they have these movements now where they're ushering uh, clinicians into schools to kind of deal with some of these issues. But I think where we need to start, everything starts with our generations before us. I think there needs to be a situation where parents, especially the caregivers, the moms who are, the first contact for any of us is that skin to skin contact with our biological mother if we're fortunate, right? That's relationship, and we crave relationship. So a lot of times in mental health awareness, when you're doing the work, you're discovering what it is that you need, what are your needs, and what you're able to give to others. And I think if we work from the very basis of when a child is born, because we can help scope a child emotionally if we get that attachment. First, we got to deal with ourselves. And that's the hardest part right there of getting people to understand why mental health awareness is important. And what I normally tell people, especially men, whether they're black, brown, white, I tell them, I said, you may not believe in therapy. You may think it's garbage, and I can respect that. But how many times have you spoken to your friend or your boy or your girl about an issue or a problem? Although they're not a professional, if you're seeking advice or you're seeking resolution, that's a form of therapy. That's talk therapy. You may not know which framework you're working in, but that's what it is. And so I think it's important, obviously, if you have some issues or you know of something that's bothering you, it's good to seek that kind of help.
What age do you think it's good to start therapy?
Woo! Again, that's a really interesting question because we work, like I said, we work as early as when the kids who are 3 or 4 that are showing signs of poor development, and we're doing interventions. So I think as soon as there's a discovery of a child that may not be at the developmental stage they're supposed to be, I think it could start there. So 1 years old, 2 years old. In terms of an individual being aware, first you have to admit that you're aware that you may have something that needs to be worked on. Because some of us have some problems that we're not aware. Like for me, I didn't know I was ignorant and arrogant until my mother at 25 years old said to me, I love you, son, but you just really don't pay attention and you think you know it all. And so that hit, a mother knows their child, right? And I freely admit, I was a
When she said that to you, did you know? Like, were you in denial? Like, no, I'm not, or did you know when she said that?
No, I knew.
Okay.
I knew.
Because we know ourselves.
We know ourselves. It hurt my feelings, and in terms of, but if my mom said this to me, I have to believe it because other people said it as well. And I'm always a firm believer that if one person says something about you, and another person says that same thing, and they don't know each other, you may want to pay attention. So, but again, I didn't have an awareness to go seek out help. And so now I have a therapist. I am a therapist. I have a therapist, right? I should have a therapist. But to answer your question, I think as soon as there's an identification of the issue, which is why in states like New Jersey, they are very forward in having a system that actually a parent can call up or a child can call themselves through their parents and seek help that they don't even have to really pay for if they qualify, if they meet the criteria. So the awareness is rising, but I think we can go back to parenting. I think parenting is important. I think that if you and I are parents, then there's 3 things that we should always keep in the forefront, right? We never want to give into negative energy. Or even as adults, if I'm sitting here having a conversation with you and I say something that offends you, then you don't give into your negative energy of being offended. That's the first thing.
But that comes from being a forgiver.
There you go. Forgiving and understanding and living in your energy of whatever that energy is. And the second thing is always finding ways to accuse each other of doing things that are right. Because how often have we, especially as kids get up in the morning on time to go to school. They come back, they do their homework. How many times do parents say, well, thank you for getting up on time, Billy, and getting to school? That shows how responsible you are. And I really appreciate you doing that. It shows that you're a team player. And I'm going to need you to do more of that because you actually could not have gotten up. Instead of a vague praise like thank you or you look nice, we have to go deeper than that. And the third thing is it's all about setting those boundaries. A broken rule is a broken rule. And I think that's where we get into trouble, especially with kids and even as adults. Because if I cross that line one time and you allow me to, even in relationships, if I say something disrespectful to you and you let me get away with it, I'm probably going to do it again because I think it's okay.
It's like cheating. It's like it's like you have, it's very important. And it's like some of my friends, even myself, when I reflect back on situations that repeated itself over and over, patterns and things, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. It makes you, I totally get it.
And then the key question is, what do you ask yourself? Why you're allowing it? And that's the question.
Yeah. But a lot of people don't get to the why am I allowing it. it's like, why? It's like, you're doing this to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was there before. It's like, you're doing this to me. Why are you doing this to me? You know, you did this to me.
Right.
Instead of, it's like, no, what is it in me that that is allowing that to happen?
Mhm.
Because if I don't have boundaries, then anything could happen.
The other part of the trauma, if we sit down and have conversations about trauma, usually if you talk to people, they can tell you what happened. Like I just told you,
Mhm.
I was beaten with an extension cord. Someone may have, you know, been molested, or someone may have been verbally abused. They can talk about the event, but what often doesn't get talked about is how it made you feel. Because I never had a chance to tell anybody how it made me feel as a 6-year-old being beaten with an extension cord naked. I never had a chance to tell anybody that story until I was able to tell that to actually, I went to a training in front of like 80 people, and then I told the story. And that was the first time I had actually had a chance to let all those feelings come up from, you know, how it felt. And that's the part that we miss. This is why mental health is important. There's the event, but then there's the feeling. What did you feel? What did you feel physically? What did you feel internally? The person who's supposed to protect me, my stepdad, is the one who beat me to the point where I had scars. And even today, still, these scars are from the extension cord, so they are reminders of the trauma. And a lot of us have reminders of the trauma, and we may not have the physical scars.
Yeah. I mean, you remember just in hearing a song, or, you know, it's little things that what we call what now triggers. That's,
Yes.
you know, everyone is like, it's impressive though, because as you know, you have conversations with people, and people are using the word narcissist and triggers and
Which I hate.
And boundaries. I mean, yeah, it is.
I can't
but
stand it.
It's bringing awareness to things that we never spoke about before.
I can't.
Why do you hate it?
I'm gonna tell you why I can't stand it. Because I'm here sitting with you. You're doing your thing. There is no way I'm going to know what you know because I haven't done it. I don't know like this language. So when people throw out narcissists, I'm like, okay, do you know what a narcissist is?
I see. I mean, and that is true, because a lot of us are learning from YouTube and TikTok.
There you go.
And then, you know, you hear one TikTok and with a
Right.
definition, and now you're labeling everyone. Oh, you're a narcissist. You're a narcissist.
There you go.
I guess I'm saying this from a place of a person who's done the work.
Yeah.
So in me doing the work, like I do have a therapist myself, and we've done the work of figuring out my attachment styles, and you know, talking about my childhood, and questions that she asked me, like, ooh, it made me really think, like, ooh, okay. And you don't really, you're right, it's like you don't think about how you feel. So when you bring up those moments again, and you realize it's like, no, I'm not angry, because it triggers something in your body that makes you feel anger. And then it's like, no, I wasn't anger, like I was hurt, or I was this, or I was disappointed, or, you know, and then it allows you to dig that up, sift it out, throw away what's not needed, and move on. And that's why I feel like, for me, it was so important, because you hold on to things, you don't really realize why you're holding on to them, or why you're so angry. It's people that I would be upset with, or like that I'm not speaking to, that I could enter a room in with them, and you feel it all through your body.
Yeah.
You know, that's not affecting that person. It's like, I say unforgiveness is like me taking the poison and thinking you're going to die. The only person who gets affected by that is me.
I like that.
Like, I feel it through my body. Like, when you're angry, you feel it. You feel everything through your body. I mean, there's a book that I read by Dr. Anita Phillips that I talk about all the time, The Garden Within. And she discusses about how our body is like a garden. And how in growing plants and growing trees, we have roots down and up. And just the how, like, you know, just how our body, our nervous system emulates a plant's nervous system exactly. Like, it's just, it was such an amazing book. I give it to all my friends, but you don't realize how much that trauma or those stresses affect your body, and then you don't realize how you get sick. We carry all the eggs that we're ever going to have, which means if I do have a daughter, she has all the eggs that she's ever had, and so forth. So that's all going into you know, into my child subconsciously. You don't even realize it. So it's just trying to learn how to deal. What do we say now? Emotional intelligence, is that?
Yeah. So you heard the term that a lot of people use, pouring into others, right? So one of the models that I use It's called the Nurtured Heart Approach.
Mhm.
Was developed by Howard Glasser, who freely admits that he was an intense child. And I've had the privilege of actually, studying under he and another gentleman by the name of Josh Kirsten, who is pretty much like his number one student. So here's a man who created this model, and it's based on those three stands that I talked about earlier, right? And we're doing it every day. We just don't know, right? Because a lot of times you can be doing something, but you don't know what it is you're doing, but it seems to work.
Mhm.
So when you talked about boundaries, right? So the pouring in is building inner wealth. Like many people have investment portfolios, right? They invest money long term, and if they're fortunate, they leave it there for about 40 years and come out compounded interest, and they got a little bit of money saved.
Mhm.
Well, why can't we build inner wealth in each other? Why can't when I see you, hey Mia, you are the greatness of just bringing people together and bringing mental awareness to the forefront of everybody's mind. That speaks volumes as to how you care about your community. Why can't we build inner wealth in each other like that? From the time we're born, from the even before then, when that mom is carrying that baby,
Mhm.
talking to that baby, oh, Joey, I felt you kicking me. That lets me know that you're alive and well, and I can't wait to meet you, right? Because children can hear, right? So if we build inner wealth in children and adults, and I work with a lot of younger men who are involved in juvenile justice, from stealing cars,
Mhm.
robbing, gang banging. I have a caseload of them, and what I realized that when you get them one on one,
Mhm.
they're a little different, right? Just
Mhm.
because now you're starting to talk, and sometimes when you're able to penetrate that, well, what is it that makes you want to have this demeanor that you don't have to show emotions? Because that's the way we've been taught, especially if you're born in certain places like urban America, right? You're
Mhm.
taught as a man you don't show emotions, so all those feelings that you have from the trauma that you may have experienced, whatever it is repressed. And then how does it come out? And then when sometimes it come out, it's an explosion.
Mhm.
And I think if we can get into building inner wealth, if we can get into creating those miracles and molecules, we're going to have our best chances of developing individuals who are going to get to the point where, hey, you know what? This is who I know I am. These are my triggers, because we all have triggers.
Mhm.
It's a matter of how we manage them and what does that trigger look like, right? So when you see that trigger happening, how do we respond to that? And there's a way to respond to it if we're in command of our emotions. And again, we're human.
Mhm.
I might go off the rail once in a while for something. Then I got to check myself. Oh, wait a minute, that's not the energy I want. And then come back and, like you say, forgiveness. Forgiveness is so huge because you're right. You can see somebody and you want to drink the poison, you're going to die, not them, and they're just going to keep doing what they're doing.
Mhm.
And so that's a part
Listen,
of all that.
how important do you see for me when I started to doing the work in myself,
Mm.
it came from the work that I was also doing with my faith. How important do you
Mm.
feel like your faith is? Because I feel like our culture has gotten so far away from faith and just our knowing God, knowing about the Bible, reading the Bible, just in
Mm.
general that we've gotten so far away from that we don't even really understand forgiveness, hence why we don't do it.
I believe in God. Um, I was born into being a Baptist. I was baptized, became saved. Um, I questioned some things. Whether you're Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever you believe in,
Hmm.
I believe spirituality has a huge um, positive impact when you're trying to get to a place mentally where you have conquered your demons, you've addressed your traumas. Um, I I can't sit here and ever think with any reasonable confidence that there can't be some supreme being because I'm here. It's got to be something greater than me and
Hmm.
all of us.
Hmm.
And so, I personally try to attach myself to that, and that keeps me in that space where, hey, you know what? That's not very. Is that something you really want to do? Do you really want to affect someone negatively? And so, for me, again, post 25 years old, post 35, 40, um, I focus on if you and I are having this conversation, I want to leave with you being either better in a space than you were, or at least in the same space, and I don't make you worse in the same thing. So that's what I do, and I think that's what that spiritual development is all about.
Yeah, I want to make sure that I add value. I
Yeah,
want anyone that I'm around to be able to leave knowing that I added value to them and they have added value to
and
me.
if they don't, then you got to have that boundary where you let them go,
Yeah,
because
that part.
it's okay not to. We don't mix.
Yeah.
We just don't. Okay, it's good. You are
Or
you.
I poured and you'll get poured. I'll get something poured back to me from someone
There
else.
you go.
Everything I may not get everything back from everyone that that I give to, but somewhere down the line it will be given to me and when I need it.
Uh, there- Need.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good word that comes up, right? And that's missing in a lot of when we do this work. What are our needs?
Hmm.
What about that child that was neglected and who has been neglected? So they're not thriving as they're developing, right? They're surviving. It could be physical, it could be nutritional, it could be emotional. How many kids are actually starving for the attention of their biological caregivers? Not to mention a lot of single family homes.
Hmm.
I work with, I'm going to tell you this. Since 2017, because I always keep the number, I've worked with 1,108 kids
Mm.
in New Jersey. And I'm going to tell you, only 12 have the biological mom and dad in the home.
Mm.
I need you to understand that number. And this is over years since I've been doing this. Since 2017, I started counting, just keeping tabs,
Mm.
just keeping it. And I'm like, and I brought this to attention of a couple of colleagues of mine, like that I work with. Only 12.
Only 12 kids had their biological parent, mom or dad in the house, or mom and dad in the house.
Mom and dad in the house.
Mm.
12. And I'm not making this number up.
I
12.
mean, this is you're giving us what you do.
This is, and I was like, I had 1 year where I worked with 222 kids, and because we do short term,
Mhm.
right? So 3 months, 6 months, and there wasn't one uh, youth that I work with that had both natural parents in the home.
And that's sad.
And that was really sad because I didn't have my natural dad when I was growing up.
Hmm.
I had a stepfather. So it was happening then, right? So we have more people in the world now, right?
Hmm.
So it's definitely happening. So I think that's a major part of why we don't develop the way we need to emotionally, because we're already starting with an adverse childhood experience.
Listen,
We don't. Dad's not home, or if I'm in the system, if I'm in the foster care system, I don't have either
which is
parent.
another beast. I don't we don't think about that until you have like I had a conversation with another adult who lived through the foster care
Mm,
system. And when he was telling me, like, he remembered the exact moment when he stopped being a kid. He was
mm,
8 years old. He said, I
mm,
remember when I lost my childhood. Like, I remember
mm-hmm,
exactly the moment. And he spoke about, just his trials and tribulations of being in the
mm-hmm.
foster care system. And it was, I couldn't even give him words back. And it made my heart melt for him. It's like, I totally understand why you are how you are because of what, like, how could you be anything else?
Probably multiple placements.
Oh my God,
Mm-hmm,
multiple placements,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and then just evilness of the foster
At the
parent.
force. So
Ooh,
so
I
again,
mean,
another conversation, right? So the system is so broken,
oh my goodness.
because I don't know how they vet these parents, these foster parents, but some foster parents are, dare I say, they're ruthless. They're only there for
The money.
that dollar, whatever that dollar amount is. And there's some great foster parents out there. Of course there are.
I have some
There's
friends who came from foster parents that
Yeah.
I was like, because you just think that it's always going to be bad. So you're like, wow, really? Like, you're so great. Like,
Yeah. Children, we were children once, right? I'm significantly older than you, right? So we were all children. Children are resilient, and it all depends on your environment is going to shape you.
mm-hmm.
Your belief system, whatever that is going to shape you. Your value, is going to shape you. Your vision, whatever your vision is, right? And I always ask people, like, what is your vision? What do you see for yourself? And what do you see for others? Because most times we don't even see for ourselves, and we definitely try to see for others.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, I stop and ask, like, what does negative self-talk sound like to you? And what do you do when it occurs? And some of us are constantly living in that negativity that we know no other way because we're in survival mode like 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a trigger that's been activated internally that you don't even realize, which now causes these other behaviors, which are symptoms of the trauma.
Mm-hmm. See, it's so much. It's just so much that goes into it. So much. How important do you think therapy is for relationships?
Woo. Well,
And this is good and bad relationships. Like not just, most people think like you go to therapy when things are bad. Like, do you think it's a benefit to go when things aren't bad, or just, before you, at any point?
I believe in preventive care in the system altogether. And when you say relationships, you mean like man, woman, like that, like in a relationship?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So first you're coming together. There's something about me that I was attracted to you, something about you're attracted to me. Boy, girl gets together. Okay. Everything's good.
Boy,
So,
girl, 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 boy,
okay,
boy.
yeah,
We
yeah.
got to
I'm
make
sorry.
sure we
You're
take
right.
in the
Yeah,
whole.
yeah, that's right. Two people get together.
Exactly.
Or three people these days. I don't know, four. um, there was something we liked about each other to get together. Now, if we were in the same place, wherever that same place with whatever it was we were thinking of each other,
Mm-hmm.
then that very first time that something is said or done that is offensive, that is lingering, I believe that is the time to say, hey, you know what? Let's see if we can work this out together. And if we can't agree, then let's go see someone. So I would say as soon as something happens, I think it's important. Now, understand, you know, healthcare is expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all don't have insurance to go to even see a primary care physician.
No,
So don't have the insurance to go see the therapist
that is true.
because your insurance may not carry it depending on where you work. They may not even have insurance that gives you a provider like me.
Mm-hmm.
You may not be able to get me out of pocket. And you certainly can't go to an agency and find me because they don't have the funding.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it tough, right? So it's about having that support network. I think spiritual development is important. I think family is important. Now, if you're a person who doesn't have family, hopefully you may have a close network because we all seek connection.
Mm-hmm. And family could be created, like
Absolutely.
I
It could
feel
be
like
whatever your family is, whatever that looks like. I agree with you 100%. Now, if you happen to be a person who's a loner, because all through your life you've been through a system, and you may be that person who, because of all the abandonment you've experienced, all the other trauma you've experienced, you shut down and like, you know what, I'm to myself, right? And then you meet your person. So again, are you able to understand that? Hey, you know what? I know what my triggers are, and I want to work on them. Where I go, and it goes back to what I said in the beginning. Find someone to talk to. Doesn't have to be a professional, especially if you don't have access. But if you have that person that you can really lean into,
mm-hmm.
and they're, you respect their wisdom, and you believe that they can assist you in getting to where you need to get to, then just verbalize what you're going through.
So let me ask you, a lot of times when I'm speaking to my friends about therapy, or I'm telling them, like, have you gone to therapy? They're like, oh, I'm not talking to no stranger about my business, like,
Yeah.
or I'm not just gonna be sitting and telling no stranger my
Yep.
business. Or I hear, I'm not telling, because there are more black therapists now that are available than were before. So it would be
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm not telling this white person my business. They don't understand what I went through, or I'm not telling this stranger. What do you say to people who that's their answer?
Couple things. Well, have you ever told someone something that you were close to and they went and told somebody else? Because you don't have to worry about that with a therapist.
I mean,
How many times has that happened? That's number one.
mm-hmm.
Number two, whatever you do, whatever your profession is, and if you are a professional in your profession,
Mm-hmm.
and for instance, if you get in your, or if you need something professional done to your home, are you going to pay someone to pave your driveway if they tell you their profession is only painting?
Yeah.
So if you really want the work, you want to go to a professional,
Mm-hmm.
because the one thing you're always going to get is confidentiality. You're not going to get judgment.
Yeah.
Now, you may have to go through several, and it takes, especially adults, right? The average, it takes about a good few years to trust your therapist, because again, we're a stranger.
But when you say that, it's so when you therapy is not a go once, twice, three times thing. It's
No.
something that you go that you're gonna do for a while.
Well, let me go back, right? So there's something called solution focused brief therapy. Solution focused. I believe it was on, there was a gentleman who was on Charlemagne's show.
Oh, on the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, I don't really watch him that much. I just happen to see a reel. So he does solution focused brief therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if he's licensed, but
Okay, I'm
that's
gonna look it up.
that's probably the simplest form of therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's focused on a particular issue, right? But therapy doesn't happen, as you know, being in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen while you're in your session.
Mm-hmm.
It happens when you get out of the session.
Yep.
The awareness.
It's like you talk about with your life and your things.
Right.
Then you discover why. Then you're
Right.
giving ways to deal, and then you go out and you practice.
Yeah, bam. That
And then
part.
you practice, and then when you come back and you talk to your therapist again, you talk about what you, if you hit the mark or if you didn't. And if you didn't, then they help you find ways. Now you got to go deeper into maybe why you didn't. This so it's super helpful, and it's just it's not like a one. It's like school.
It is okay.
Because you're reteaching yourself how
Yes.
to think about yourself, about situations, how to deal emotionally, how to feel.
You are a lifelong learner of self.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it comes, and also, how do you feel? And if you're that person, how am I affecting the other individual's feelings? Again, if I care.
We don't think about that. I've had many guests that, my last guest, he talked about his, going bowling in his early 20s.
Okay.
And, and I said, we just don't think about how you feel. Like, you just don't
Right.
think about it. And you'll
Right.
say smart things, or you'll say
Yes.
something to someone, but you don't think about it. I had Aaron, from
Yes.
from our bowling community on, and you just don't think about how, the jokes about being in jail or
Mhm.
what his situation was. Like, he's been through traumatizing
Mhm.
situations. And I also asked him too, like, what do you need? I asked
Okay.
him, I had my nephew on. That's what the whole point of me having all the men this season
Okay.
on the show is because I just feel like we don't think about how each other feels. We don't ask each other what we need. We don't know how to, we don't know how to be in community because we've been surviving so long to be for self.
And again, we can't be in community if we didn't have community in our homes.
Yeah.
That's why we go outside and seek connection in other areas. Okay, so look at me, right? So when I was 15 years old, I wasn't one of the, even 14, 15, 16, 17, I wasn't one of the 6 or 7 guys that typically girls go for. You know how you girls are when y'all was in school. It was either the athlete, the one that was best dressed, the one who parents had money,
the bad boy,
the one that could dance, and for those who were into it, the one who's into substances.
Okay.
So, or either the comedian. So those are like the top 7, right?
Okay.
That's who gets the girls.
Uh-huh.
I didn't fit in, or could dress. I didn't fit in any of that.
Oh, okay.
On top of the fact that I didn't have the best skin. I don't have the best skin now, but back then I had pimples and actual bumps, right? So one day I remember coming up, I grew up in a 3-family home where we were all related. We were on the first floor, and then the second floor, the third floor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if you're familiar with these type of houses where when you go out the back of the house, there's a porch, you go upstairs so you could access upstairs from either the front or the back. So I'm coming up the back, and I have a great grandmother. Come upstairs, and which is what I normally did after school, because that's where the aunts and uncles or whatever. Here comes that gravel face motherfucker. Excuse my language. Now,
and we do that. We do that. I mean, we do that.
Yes.
It sounds mean, but we do that. Like,
because
look at this little nappy-headed girl, or look at
we
are not nice to eat. Like,
no. And then
we do that,
and it amplifies because now then my couple of my cousins and uncles and aunts heard it, and then now I became Gravel Face. My nickname for years was Gravel Face. It didn't start affecting me And so maybe a couple of days, weeks later, I remember standing in the mirror. Is this why I can't get a girlfriend? Is this why I can't get a date? And I shut down. And then I just remember one of my cousins called me a gravel face, and I punched him right in his face. All of this, headed to the emergency room. The only person who understood was my mother, right? Because now I'm in trouble. Because he run up, hey, here comes gravel face. All right. Hey, cause I don't like that. Hey, here comes. So my mother pulled me to the side, and she said, I understand. My mom was 4 feet 9 inches tall. So she got teased about her height. So she understood. And sometimes we don't understand until something happens to us. You'll tell me, oh, this affected me. Oh, shake that off. No. Don't, because you don't know how that affects that person.
Listen, I feel like your generation, and tell me if I'm wrong, and this is why it was important for me to have you, because for your generation, I feel like you guys, it would look pretty, but you didn't care about what was behind. It's like kitchen talk, sweep it under the rug, whatever you like. You don't. It's kitchen talk. You don't talk about what happens in the house outside. Everything outside is perfect, and it translates through your whole entire life. Like your whole entire life. So now you putting those expectations on your kids. Everything got to look perfect. It could be falling apart, and you're still there hoping, with the falling apart. It's like, at what point?
So as you said, my generation, your mom, right? So taboo to talk about anything outside your house. Also, here's the other part. You got one light-skinned kid, you got one brown-skinned kid. Who's getting the attention? Most times, 9 times out of 10.
You know what's so crazy? I'm so glad that you say that, because I'm the brown-skinned kid. My sister's the light-skinned kid. And you don't realize it until you talk to someone else who lived in that situation, that you really do. And subconsciously, I don't think no one really understands that they do that. And my sister's the favorite.
The smart kid, the not so smart kid. So they get elevated. And it may not be intentional. Be like your brother. Be like your sister. Remember, you're hearing this, especially if you're close. 2 and 4. You got to hear this 3 and 5, 4 and 6. 16 and 18. Like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, your sister doesn't do that. Your brother doesn't do that. Yeah, that's where comparison starts. And that's how jealousy starts.
That is how jealousy starts, and to me, it creates that, especially if we don't deal with it now. You become an adult, and you carry that on to the next generation, to your kids.
Or in your relationships. Or
definitely
friendships. Or just, in general. For me, as I'm getting older and I'm still single, it's, when I look at some of the men in my age group, no, not even some of the men in my age group. This is what I really want to ask you, right? So, all the men in my age group want to date younger women because they feel like they age up, women age down, right?
What are you, like 21?
Yeah, right. Lovely. But I feel like I'm 21. There's this Dr. Cindy Trim that I follow. She says she's 23. She acts like a 3-year-old. Like, she says these things about herself. And when you look at her and you see how old she is, you in disbelief with black people anyways, because we just don't age. They say,
well, black
don't crack
if you're not on crack. Okay, there you go.
But look, some of the crackheads, I don't know what it does to them, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes them, you be like, damn, how old are you? It's like what do they call it? Like the fountain of youth?
Yeah.
That sounds crazy, but if you know, you know. If you've seen some crackheads, then you know. But it's like, just when you go to therapy, right? I feel like there's some issue there. Like, what is that?
So you're saying the guys your age, I guess 35, 40-ish, want to date younger girls, younger women.
50 want to date 30s, 60s want to date 40s, 50s want to date 20s. Like, right, I'm just trying. I know the visual. I know men are very visual, but when you sit down again across from someone, you 50 years old and she's 26, what are you talking about?
So I'm not an expert in this, but I'll tell you this, right?
But you a man, and you know, and you a single man, so you know, and you dated, so you know. So share with help us out here.
Oh my gosh.
If anything you do, you gain an understanding, and this is what I want from you.
Yeah,
Come
okay.
on.
So and I got obviously a couple of friends of mine. So here's the deal, right? So women, so I'm 63.
Mm-hmm. And you look great.
Thank you. You're so kind.
Yeah.
See, I really appreciate that.
No, you do. I mean,
appreciate that. Well, having been on a couple of dating websites, I'm not running across a whole large selection of women in that 58 to 60-ish that have really invested in taking care of themselves physically.
Mm. No, listen.
They look.
We need to know. We need to know.
They look. And even I go down to 40s, and there are men. There are men who have not invested in taking care of themselves. Right, for you women.
I mean, listen. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. You like? I don't understand.
Number two, we have to consider. And again, this is hard conversation because you got to consider age. At my age, and some of you women now, because it's getting younger, like that 44, 45 and up. That's just like ahead of you. Mm-hmm. I'm a single man with no children. I have a dog. I'm not looking to be a full-time step grandfather. I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing it.
Okay. And that's fair, because I'm a single woman and I don't want to.
Right.
It's just not something that I desire to do at my great grands. Being single, listen. People think that you're supposed to be married. Jesus wasn't married. He didn't have no kids. But more so than anything, being single ain't that bad, okay? When I tell people, I'm like, listen.
Well, again, it all depends on where we are in life and what we want, right? Single, isn't bad. It gives you an opportunity, hopefully, to really know yourself and know what you want. Mm-hmm. And too often we think in black and white, right? So what is it that we can live with, like, and know what we cannot live with. I know I can't, like I just said, I can't live with if you're a full-time grandma. That's great, or great grandma at my age. That's great.
That's not what you want.
No, because I'm not putting a car seat in my car, because you put the car seat in your car, you leave it there. It has those things, the marks. I'm not doing that.
Listen, and this is, and if you don't know and have, that's a boundary. You're not doing it. Sorry.
Also, there are a lot of things that go into it. Now you got to think, and this is real. Mm-hmm. You got to think finances. Mm-hmm. You got to think about things that are important to you. And again, when you live with yourself for a long time by yourself, woo, it's hard for that next person to come in. 'Cause you're like, you like your stuff a certain way when you come home.
The cup like that? Why are you eating off that? Why you got to eat off that for?
Well, why didn't you put the coaster on the table? And then so it's a lot. It's so many things.
So young girls put the coaster on the table, and the older women are not, or is it more of a physical thing? I'm just trying to understand what it is, because me and the girls, we have these conversations many times, and I said I'm having a real man come on my show. That's he's gonna tell us, and you're gonna tell us from a standpoint that's not, because I don't do the negative, and it's not to bash people. But we're just trying to understand. Do those men need to go to therapy too?
I'm not so fortunate to be one of those men that gets to young girls, so I wouldn't know. But I guess at my age, 40 would be young, yeah. No, I just.
There's no answer to it, ladies. Get in the gym. Get in the gym. Go get it nipped and tucked and fixed, because they are. I get it. I mean, to each his own. Everyone is it, but I get it, because sometimes when I talk to some of my friends and they start going down the list of what they want, I'm like, girl, how you want that? And that's not you. You want a man that's fit, but you not. Like, you got to have some common interest. I'm out, something.
And I'm gonna tell you also, I don't even really tell people. I don't know if I told you initially, I don't remember, but I don't like to tell people I'm a therapist. If someone asks me what I do, I just simply say I'm a social worker. And I just leave it at that, because once you mention therapist,
because then they think, oh, you're gonna break me down.
You analyzing me? No, it doesn't work that way, right? So I'm like,
you got some kind of scanner in your eyes.
Yeah, like I can see.
Once you say therapist, it goes over them, and now all their secrets are gonna be known.
I gotta watch what I say. No, you don't. I'm human. I turn that off, actually. Like, it's not like that, but it helps me check myself. And it's going to take a strong woman to understand that, right? Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, it's as an older man, do we like younger women? We like a certain look, especially if we're looking at that. Yeah. Also, with younger women, right? We know, and I'm saying younger than you, right? We know you ain't really into us long term. We know this going
Yeah, I
in.
know that.
Of course we do.
Oh, okay. Because
We know this.
we just had this conversation last night, and we were like, you know, that 28-year-old is really there getting her bills paid, and she is tolerating.
We know that.
You know,
Especially, here's my personal
but you don't
experience.
care.
I think the average woman knows what she wants by the time she's about 35, whether she wants to be married or have a family. You know, the average woman knows that. When we come across a younger woman who says she likes me, she probably could like me for a while, and she may have all her stuff together. Now, some of them, there's some younger women that actually do like older men for whatever reason. But for the most part, we know what it is.
Oh, okay.
We know. So it's it's a transaction. That's the best way I can say it.
I just wanted to, I have to ask, for I'm asking for the friends, the girls, we have these conversations. So I'm like, let me ask, because we just need to know. So ladies, there you go. There you go. So listen, we got to wrap up. I'm very appreciative that you were here. I definitely want to have you come back a few times and really, really, really get into maybe some so we don't realize how much trauma that we've really lived through, because everyone around us has lived through the same things that we've been living through. So it kind of become the norm. We don't understand how unnormal, how, certain things like, just like how you talk to a kid and the name calling and the teasing and the, it starts in the home, so I just wanted to be able to maybe deep dive later on into that. So I hope you would be interested in coming back some other times. But if you can please let everyone know, because you do have your own company, name of your company, and do you take clients still now, or do you take private clients?
I do.
Okay, good. So let's share all that information. So if you are interested, or if you do need, it'll all be there, and it'll also be in the credits. So go ahead. The floor is yours.
Mia, I appreciate. First of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to come, on your podcast and have a light conversation about mental health and mental health awareness. And certainly, I would come back anytime. And in fact, if you are open to a live, I would actually have a client, and we would do a live session.
Oh, yeah. Listen,
so
I'm open
people
to
can
anything.
actually see those things. Yeah, so the name of my company is Generations Family Guidance. We're on the web. We work through we have males and females. We have, we're as young as 20 years old, and we're as old as I am, 63. And so there's a wide range of therapists available. We do telehealth, and we also do in person. And what I want to say to everyone who's listening, look in that mirror, whether it's imaginary or an actual mirror, and really talk to yourself and ask yourself, what do I want? What am I, and what do I want to become? And that's where it'll start. And therapy is not a bad thing. And just remain faithful in whatever it is you believe in, and you're going to get the best out of life that you can. And so I just thank you for allowing me to come here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Listen, I just hope that all I want to do is just if just one person's mind changes, then I've done my episode has done its thing. So click like and subscribe. Check out my past episodes. Really, really listen to his advice. It's hard. The hardest thing to do is to look at yourself, look deep in yourself, and to desire to want to change yourself, because a lot of the times we don't think anything is wrong because we've been the way we are as long as we've been. But there's always room for improvement. God made us good so that we can make ourselves great. He likes greatness, but we have to do the work. So think about it. It's just, it's not hard. Why wouldn't you want to be better? It's for you. So take a thought, think about it, and click like and subscribe. Watch this episode again, share it, and catch me next time. I'm Mia Quinn Maddox. Peace. New and in between. Check it out. YouTube. Click like and subscribe. Subscribe. Thanks.